Today we are going to answer the question, how does the CF Moto 450 perform in wetter conditions as the bike comes as stock? And that's one thing that I really want to emphasize, is that I have done nothing to this bike to improve its performance. Nothing whatsoever. I've pretty much taken this bike from the dealership and just taken it out on some trails, and this is how the bike comes as standard. The only things that I have added are the screen extension, which is great for on the road riding, the heated grips, also great for on the road riding and longer distance riding, and the foam mount, and that is it. So it's got stock tyres, it's got no engine protection, no engine bars, etc. The air filter is as stock, the mapping and whatnot is as stock. So this is pretty much what you can expect from this bike should you go out and buy one today as bog standard. The only thing it does have is the original sump guard, which is very flimsy but obviously essential for doing this kind of work. So yeah, today we are out with about 9 or 10 different bikes. Most of them, all of them actually, are trail bikes. I think the biggest one might have been a 300 on this day. The rest might have been 250s. So these are obviously bikes that are designed for this kind of work. They've got more power, they're much lighter, they have the right knobbly tyres on for the job. I, on the other hand, I'm on the CF Moto 450 MT, of course, and the tyres that I have on this bike are questionable for this kind of work. I have to say they struggled a fair amount today. And the tyres that come on it, they're a Chinese brand. I believe I'm not quite sure of the brand name, but they are the ones that come on the bike as stock. And they might perform okay in the spring or the summer when it's drier and not wet. But I can promise you, as we're going out of autumn into winter now and it's getting wetter and colder and slippier, they are not the kind of tyres you want on your bike. You just can't trust them, and trusting the tyres and the grounding of a bike is a massive thing when you're riding off-road and even on-road. Let's be honest, you want to be able to trust the tyres because that's what keeps you grounded and planted on the floor. And yeah, these just aren't ideal. You just find the front end slipping out a lot, particularly when you're on terrain like this, which is very wet. So as you can see, it's not technical. You can't really call this technical riding, I guess, but there's a lot of stuff to maneuver around. It's not one straight trail, it does split off into two. There's some obstacles on the ground, there's some protruding roots, there's some fallen logs, there's, you know, a lot of foliage on the floor, so you can't always see what you're riding over. And then there's a fair amount of ruttage, some big ruts that are covered in water, and they're very narrow as well, which makes them quite hard to ride at times, especially when you've got the wrong tyres on the bike. But this was a really wicked day, and it does really push this bike to the limits. This is the second trail of the day, and before we even set off, I was chatting to the guys that I'm riding with, and they said, you know, when we get to the second one, just a heads up, when you get about halfway up, it begins to get quite boggy, quite wet and quite rutty, and you might struggle with those tyres on today. So if you want to stop and turn around, we will double back, so we'll see you on the way back down. It will be like 5-10 minutes, nothing long, no real wait. Me being me, I kind of only realised that this was the second trail, which they mentioned about halfway up. And by that point, well, over halfway up, and by that point I just thought, you know what, I'm on it now. We may as well keep on going. And it doesn't look that difficult watching the video back, let's be honest. It looks pretty tame, but I promise you, with the tyres that I had on this bike, it was just almost impossible to keep the thing upright. The front end was slipping and sliding all over the shop. The back end too, that's not so bad, but you know, it makes it a lot of work which is not ideal. So the first thing I'll be doing is changing these tyres. But I think it's a massive testament to the CF Moto 450 MT. It pulls through. It does these jobs absolutely fine. It gets through. It's stock. This is a £5,500 bike, and it's just phenomenal. I honestly, I really love this bike.
Total carnage on this bike. Very muddy with these tyres on.
And for what you get for £5,500, it is a lot of bike. It's robust. It handles most terrains. The bike itself is absolutely it's incredible. It's so fun. It's got low end pep. It's got plenty of speed when you're riding on the highways. It does that absolutely fine. I got it up to 70 the other day. You wouldn't want to hold it there for too long. I'm not sure how it would do with a pillion and luggage on as well, going long distance touring, but it does do 70 absolutely fine. It can go beyond that obviously as well, but I wouldn't want to hold it there for too long. But for what you get for the money, this bike is it's just absolutely phenomenal. I really love it, and I think most of the guys that I was riding with on this particular day were quite surprised with how it did on this trail. I've had many people ask me actually about, why did I choose the MT, how did I come to choose it, and also why did I not get a trail bike, given that's what I'm doing a lot of work. I'm doing that a lot at the moment rather than riding on roads and whatnot. Well, I didn't just land on the MT by luck. I did a lot of research, and I looked at trail bikes, I looked at rally bikes, I looked at numerous other bikes, older bikes, cheaper bikes that were heavier but more affordable. And look, a trail bike, they're great bikes and they're perfect for this kind of work, but I want to do longer tours, I want to carry a pillion, I want to carry luggage, and I also want to do this as well, and a trail bike isn't ideal for all of that. They're not as comfortable for long distances, you need to refuel far more often, they're not ideal to have a pillion on either, although you can, and they're just not as comfortable. And I think that's the main reason why I kind of was choosing between the Himalayan or the CF Moto 450, was because they're just two great bikes that are affordable bikes. They're not expensive, they're very, very competitive on price. And to answer another question in terms of why I went with the CF Moto rather than the Royal Enfield, was because the CF Moto just feels more aggressive, it feels more off-road ready. People say about the seat, you're being sat more inside the bike rather than on the Himalayan, you're sat more on the bike, more like a motocross style kind of position. But I personally don't care about the position. I'm normally stood up when I'm off-road, so the seat being in the bike doesn't really bother me, and personally I quite like it, to be honest. The Himalayan feels a bit more tame, it feels a bit more stylish and luxurious of a bike compared to the CF Moto MT, and as I said, it just feels less aggressive, and I like that aggression on the bike when I'm riding off-road. I would argue for the Himalayan that I prefer it on highways, going and holding at higher speeds. It feels smoother, which is funny to say given that's a single and this is a twin. The CF Moto is a twin, but that's just my personal thoughts and feelings towards the two bikes. I didn't get a chance to take the Himalayan off-roading much. I did one small gravel track and then bailed on it because it wasn't my bike, and it got a bit gnarlier toward the top, and I just didn't feel like throwing a lone bike on the ground and scratching it up. But just from that alone, I know that I prefer the MT. It just feels more capable as it comes as a stock bike to do all of the stuff as I'm showing you right now in this video. So, to carry on talking about this day, there's one observation that I've made actually, and that is that with an action cam, it's really hard. The terrain you're riding on doesn't fully translate onto a video via an action cam. I found that from watching other vlogs and from watching my own stuff recently, that a lot of the stuff and the terrain and the stuff you're riding over, it's hard to gauge what it's actually like with this wide angle camera that we use on Action Cam. And compared to what it's really like, it's kind of hard to get a proper feel for it. You kind of need an external camera to really show you the ground sometimes, I think. But today wasn't too bad. It was quite flat. The main kind of work was in how wet it was. Prior to today, it had been snowing. The snow had been kind of hanging around for 2 or 3 days. It had been very cold, so the snow froze over, and it kind of just started to thaw out properly today, which has left the ground very wet and boggy in places. So most of the terrain is fords, as you can see right now, bits of gravel, tons of mud, tons of ruts and dirt, leaves, and then bits of grass as well. So it's not very technical, pretty straightforward, and hopefully we can really put this bike to the real test over some more technical work kind of sometime next year, going to Wales and hopefully Spain and doing parts of the Tet and whatnot. But this was a wicked day. I really do think that this pushed the limit of these tyres, to be absolutely honest with you. It was a lot of work. I throw the bike down several times as well. There's one of them. The thing is with these bikes as well, they're just quite heavy. I mean, they're light, but they're also quite heavy. It's not something you want to be stood on really slippy mud trying to hold up for any period of time. So if it's going down and it's a soft landing, you may as well just put the thing down and pick it up. Pretty sure coming up now, yeah, here we go. This bit surprised me. I think as long as you're keeping up momentum and you can keep the bike moving, as we do here, it does pretty well. You know, it didn't get stuck. This was probably the boggiest, most kind of wettest section that we went through in this trail today, and it did pretty well. And then we do get off it here and power slide, which was pretty gnarly and worrying, to be honest, but we managed to keep it up just about. And then we're back into some kind of ruttage here. They get pretty deep. For some reason I kept on taking the harder lines today. Could have gone left here, instead I went right and ended up in just some really boggy ruts. And the thing with this bike is the clearance off the ground isn't massive, you know. So often when the ruts are pretty deep, you do get the pegs caught, and then here we put it down a little bit quicker.
Got my leg trapped. Hey. Cheers, yeah.
And then we get some help.
Cheers, mate.
So there it actually got stuck on my leg. And I've said this bike is light numerous times, but when it's on your leg and your leg's at a funny angle, it's not easy to pick up. And right there I was very thankful that I had someone to give me a hand. Also, in my right leg I'm missing an ACL, which means that, if I twist it at a funny angle, especially when a bike's on top of it, it can often pop out, and it's quite painful. It takes me a while to get it back in place. Still need an operation on that leg at some point soon. But when is always the hard thing to answer. When you have an operation done where you can't walk, it's never a good time for that, really, is there? Here we go through some slightly deeper stuff again. Yeah, some of these got so deep I think it's about here. No, I must have missed it now. Get caught on some roots here. But as you can tell, I'm doing this vlog slightly differently today. I'm narrating this from the comfort of my own home. I didn't choose or plan to do it this way. I ended up totally messing up the sound on the day, and rather than scream at you with like blown out sound from the actual day, I thought I may as well record this at home in a calmer manner, where I can actually talk about things in more detail and also answer some more questions. You know, I think when you're riding around on new trails that you've never ridden before, and you're trying to, you know, look for your line, look up ahead, try and control the bike, try and keep yourself from, you know, breaking things, as well as trying to narrate a vlog and talk in any real clarity or detail about bikes and whatnot and the terrain you're riding on, it often it can be quite difficult. It can be quite difficult to say the least. So I think this could be a really interesting way of moving forwards with some of the vlogs going forwards, like I said. But anyway, I think I'm going to cut off here. I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of the vlog without me babbling on. If you like the content, please do subscribe. Also, if you have any questions, as usual, drop them in the comments below, or come over to the Discord page, which is a separate page from here, where the conversation can be expanded. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with this bike throughout the winter months with some new tyres on it. But first of all, I need to go and make some money so I can actually afford the tyres. But yeah, a lot of fun this day. It really pushed me and the bike to the limit, and I hope you enjoy, and I will see you all very soon in a couple of weeks' time. You good? Sweet.
435 and Dave good.
Yeah, nice.
I'm going to take it back tomorrow.
Take it back. Okay, that is the day now done officially, and it's safe to say this thing has been pushed to its limit today with these tyres on. As I keep saying, the bike itself has been great. It manages just fine, but it is hard work with these tyres on, let me tell you that. It's really, really hard work on wet terrain. Hi.